What pushed you away from your ex-best friend? When I realized that the only time she ever got in touch with me was because she wanted something from me. Oh yes, this. Lost a friend after I realized I was just their ride everywhere. I had some friends when I was in my early 20s. I was the oldest one and could buy alcohol. They would tell me all the time, we are not just friends with you cause you can buy alcohol, but the phone calls definitely stopped once someone else turned 21. I finally called it when I invited them all to my brother's restaurant once. Like he was basically going to comp the whole thing except for maybe drinks or were dislike for. But they were all like, oh sorry I don't have any money right now, and bailed. Turns out they all decided to ditch me to hang out with each other. I only knew cause one of our friends who didn't know what was going on invited me to go out with them. Did you remain friends with that one friend? Just curious lol. I did this too. I 100% thought of him as my best friend. But then, when I was going through some for months, he couldn't be bothered to return my calls. It made me realize the relationship had always been all about him. So I dropped him. And F me because I still grieve the loss of my best friend. It's hard. When I realized that they just brought negative energy and drama with them everywhere. Something or someone always had to be wrong and they desperately needed to be the center of everyone's attention. It just became grating and I found myself less happy around them. So I had to remove myself from the friendship. Same exact situation. To add to that, I remember it feeling like sunk cost fallacy. She had helped me out, and I had helped her, so I didn't want to look like an $1. I remember what made it click was her standing in front of me asking me if there was something wrong with her. All the men in her life had just vanished and blocked her. It made me go, wait a minute, she knows she's doing something wrong. She's not doing anything about it, though. She's trying to change if she asked if something was wrong with her. I've had experience with a character very much like this, and in their case, no, it was a trap. The game was to continually ask you what was wrong with them, ask you what they should do, and then any answer that wasn't telling them they're perfect and should change nothing would be taken as a personal attack. Any suggestion on changing anything would be ignored. The fact is, other people can't tell you what your problem is. It takes real work and self-awareness to figure it out. Same, and now my life feels so free. Like I realized that the constant negativity made me negative too. Now I'm optimistic and happy and loving life. I got therapy. Word, those rose-colored glasses flew off after 3 years of intense therapy. It's super common that as you heal you find yourself moving on from relationships that no longer serve you because they were premised in your previous unhealthy behavior belief systems. I'm experiencing this currently. She used to make fun of me behind my back with others. Yeah, same here. F those people. Mean people suck. Same here. I found out from another person who even recorded her making fun of me for being poor and how she'd give me her old clothes cause she felt sorry for me. I just stopped talking to her and cut her off. She transferred to another school. Then my last friend, who was a beautiful, kind and wonderful person, got killed by a drunk driver. I'm sorry for your loss. He started smoking crack and insists that the world is a simulation. Still smokes it? Yeah, he's texting me today with these wild ideas and I'm just gutted. He's lost his grip on reality. So is he now just a past best friend that you keep around to stay in touch with, hoping one day he'll come to grips with his life? I had 3 best friends. One died, one smokes crack, and the final, still my best friend, has an annoying crazy baby mama. So annoying and crazy to the point we rarely talk. And she even took the kids to another state and he followed her so he can be with the kids. Again, she always comes and lives off his family's property or goes back to her mom's house and always starts sh. Guys, if you're struggling with mental health, seek help. Guys, don't do hard DS. Guys, don't stick your dick in crazy. I would most likely follow my ex too, if she had my kids, even more if she is a crazy person. My ex and I were both about 33 at the time. I met her daughter, 12 for the very first time and she was a complete BTCH to me the entire lunch. Saying things like, wow, you're really ugly and that's so stupid, after I would say something. Your hair looks like a witch, your clothes are gross. Loud enough that other tables kept looking over. And the ex never once scolded her, or even told her to stop. Instead she'd sheepishly laugh and say she's just a little headstrong, don't pay attention. She's always difficult with new people, she doesn't really mean it. I did make a couple of attempts to make her stop. But I wasn't about to scold a child I didn't really know, in front of her actual parent. I'd say things like, geez, what a cruel thing to say. Or it's odd that you're being so mean for no reason, but the ex never even added anything onto that. A couple years later I was organizing a formal black tie party and I sent her an invite with A+1. She asked if she could bring her daughter since it was her custody weekend to have her. I said, no, the event was child-free. At an upscale wine bar that was reserved for the private party. Exp begged, pleaded with me to make an exception. She was older now. Blah blah. I held firm. Said this was an important event to me. I would have professional peers from my industry there. And based on A, her daughter's behavior 2 years prior, and B, her lack of discipline, I didn't feel confident that nothing similar would happen. I could just picture her insulting my dress, the food, the music, the location. And as this was an unofficial marketing event, I could not allow that. She exploded. She said I was a pretentious BTCH, and that I was choosing being fake over being her friend. There were some other choice words. It was kind of the first time she'd ever spoken to me like that in our entire friendship. And of course, her daughter was just joking. She really did like me. Yeah, right. She immediately blocked me on everything. This was in 2016. We haven't spoken since. Enabling parents are some of the worst kind of people. Sorry this happened to you. Wow, that made my blood boil. Good for you. The way you handled both situations was textbook. In my opinion. I'm sorry for how things ended, but you should be proud for sticking up for yourself. Friends for 15 plus years. Basically sisters. Things had definitely been changing in our friendship. But I looked past it because she was practically family. Then I asked her not to smoke W around me right after a particularly bad experience I had with it. And she proceeded to roll her eyes and say, W didn't RE you. He did. Get over it. Haven't spoken to her in 4 years. I still hope she's doing well and will always hope the best for her. But I couldn't move past that. Whoa. That's an incredibly insensitive thing to say to anyone. Much less someone who is supposed to be your best friend. If she felt brazen enough to say that to you, you're better off without her. 2 ex-best friends. I was solely assaulted at a party by someone we all knew. My now ex-friends were there at the time. After that they drifted away. They stopped inviting me to hang out. And the few times I saw them it was uncomfortable. They didn't even ask me how I was doing. I don't know why they weren't there for me. Guilt? Discomfort maybe? It's been over a year since I last saw them and it still hurts a lot. I'm so sorry. Know that it wasn't your fault they reacted this way. In my unfortunate experience, people often cannot process suala within a social family group well at all. Cognitive dissonance is part of it, I think. Apparently it's a very common reaction for people to passively shun the person who was ad. I hear you and believe you. And you have nothing to be ashamed about. Hopefully that doesn't sound too much like platitudes. There needs to be a public campaign to teach people how to override this tendency and actually be there for victims. I know how you feel. 5 years in the making and had the trial last year. They aren't your friends. Their reasons don't matter. Look after yourself. The person that assaulted you, were your besties either friends close with that person before or after the incident? Nope. He's my ex-friend's ex-boyfriend's friend, if you can follow that. At the time friend and boyfriend were together and we would all hang out in a group with this guy. But the only one close to him is the now ex-boyfriend. She only wanted to talk to me about her relationship problems with her crazy boyfriend. My advice to her fell on deaf ears and I couldn't handle hearing about how poorly he treated her over and over. I set a boundary that I did not want to be around a friend's boyfriend once, and when she eventually dumped him, she came back into the fold and I was invited to things again. It's not the same. I always know that some $1 will be more important. Same thing happened with me too. Got a new friend and hung out together a few times. New friend mentioned how old friend was treating me like absolute SH and I didn't seem to notice. As soon as new friend mentioned it, that's all I could notice. Hey, that's what happened to me too. New friend I made in a college program became really good friends with me and I tried to have us all hang out. New friend. 2 long-time best friends, and one of them was being constantly SH tied to me and putting me down in more subtle ways to keep me beneath her. Telling me my outfits to go out for the evening were bad. Telling me to date men she knew that were clear duds, etc. Old friend didn't want to hang out with new friend and told me she and I have nothing in common. She's maybe a bit too much like your family. I realized then and there that my few friend, who I'd only known for like 4 months in this diploma program, really did care and like me more for who I was than the people I'd known for over a decade as a kid. Also, I had to move 11 hours away for work with my new friend, chose to be roommates, and the same old friend immediately cut me out of the wedding she was planning. She went wedding dress shopping the day after I drove 11 hours away while claiming they were waiting a few months. I didn't go to the wedding because she started treating me even worse while I was all alone in the middle of nowhere without a support system. This kind of happened to me too. But I kept defending the old friend for a while after my new friends told me he was abusive. One night the old friend showed up in my house while I was hanging out with my new friends. Me and the new friends used to work fixing computers. The old friend wanted me to help him with some homework he had to send that very night. He was studying to be a cop. While I was helping him, he asked me to install in his computer a password tracking software. so he could enter his cousin's social media accounts and see if she was sleeping with someone else. Yes, they had an iOS relationship. He wouldn't admit it though, but we could all tell. I refused to install the software, so he threatened my new friends with shooting them if they didn't do it. We kicked him out of the house. May have been worth telling the cop shop he was trying for to say Hess unstable. She went from venting to emotional dumping and I couldn't take it anymore. Yes, about the same things every time we spoke. Look, I get it. SH sucks. But you're asking me for my advice. I'm telling you exactly what I would do and what I think is best for your situation. But if you're not willing to do anything about it, we either can't talk about this ad nauseum anymore, or we can't talk at all anymore. About 1,520 years ago, I was in a bad place, working nights and frequent weekends, had been diagnosed with a bunch of health problems and was in constant pain. My bestie listened to me whine repeatedly and incessantly about my problems. I knew I was a boring repetitive record. Heck, I was boring myself. When you're in the bottom of a pit, you can't see how to climb out and it's hard to hear people calling down to you from above with advice. My friend put up with me. I owe her tons. I did eventually climb out of that pit. I guess what I'm saying is, people who do the emotional dumping can change. He got my wife pregnant. Then, knowing she wasn't mine, they hid it from me, hoping I wouldn't figure it out. I didn't find out my daughter wasn't mine until she was 4. That is horrible, mate. Sorry. It was at the time. It was extremely hard to process and get through. But to this day, she is my daughter. I just wasn't there for conception, and I didn't miss out on much. I have been her daddy since the day she was born, and that never changed. It almost did. But my dad asked me some questions, and after he asked them, I answered them. It helped me get my head right. It's become really easy to talk about even. Fair enough. Bravo for sticking by her. Hope she does you proud. Man, this is the most devastating one here. I'm sorry, bro. BFFs for about 10 years. I finally distanced myself because I couldn't handle her relationship. It was very unhealthy. Emo. She literally couldn't do anything alone. If she showered, he showered. She went to work and he went and hung out there for her shift. It got to the point of me telling her that he wasn't invited so he would stop showing up with her to our hangouts. And at that point she would either refuse to come, cancel at the last minute, or she would come and rush through just like for we had planned so she could meet him outside where he would loiter waiting for her to finish hanging out with me. Or she would come and he would show up about 10 minutes later and act like it's a coincidence that we're at the same place and then join us. Very annoying. He also never had a job. And not he was unemployed and looking, but he was unemployed and planning to stay unemployed and let my friend work for their household money. When we managed to get some time alone, she constantly complained about their lack of money and how she wanted him to work and stop smothering her. I encouraged her to either talk to him and work it out or dump him. She promised to talk to him but never did. And dumping him was not an option according to her because she couldn't be alone. I just couldn't watch her disrespect herself anymore when the solution was so simple. We still have mutual friends, so I know they are still together. About 13 years now. They have 2 kids. He still doesn't work, but he's not a sod either. From what I've been told, now that she's not in retail anymore and he can't loiter inside, he sits in their car outside her office every day. And from what I've heard, that togetherness extends to parenting. If the kids are sick or have a dentist appointment or something, boyfriend doesn't take them. Ex-BFF takes time off work so they can do it together. That is next level unhealthy and dysfunctional. Wow. That's the ugliest form codependency can take. My answer seems lame to everyone else's. Time and distance. She's no longer my best friend, but she's sort of my friend. The inverse square law works in the case of gravitation and electrostatics also. This is perfect. I am a lonely little sun and all my planets have drifted to faraway orbits. This is probably the most common answer, even if it's not a huge story or a big fallout. Most friendships I've lost come from simply not being around someone anymore and not really missing them. He came back from Iraq really effed up. It would be one thing if he was experiencing emotional trauma because of things he had to do, but he would brag about the people he killed and describe in unsolicited detail the things he did to them. War crime level SH. Deep down I think he was bullshitting, but to me that's something super effed up to lie about. He sounds like he was bullshitting to sound cool. Whether it was real or not, that's still effed up, thinking I'm the man for murdering people without sympathy. She ignored me whenever we had other people around. But when she didn't have anyone else to hang out with, she would have texted me, but she would have got mad and tried to make me feel bad if I couldn't hang out with her. Through the same with someone. Feels entitled to your time even though they pay you no mind when in a group of people. Her negative energy. She would literally talk about everybody because she was insecure, and I got so tired of it and just stopped talking to her. I had one of those too. Everything was negative. She'd look for reasons to be upset or angry. I have a coworker like this. Plus she talks trash about everyone behind their backs, including me. Used to consider her a friend. Nope, not anymore. My ex-best friend left me when I got engaged to my now husband. We were both raised Mormon and were not getting married in the temple. Big deal in the Mormon church. She thought we should wait until we were worthy and that we were only getting married to have s. Husband and I have been together 11 years now. No longer Mormon and, for the record, got married because we love each other. How dare you get married for love, you heathens. Congrats on 11 years though. Mormons are a weird cult. I mean, all religions are cults, but some are a lot more culty than others. For Americans, Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses are a prime example. One of the key structures of a cult is to cut off influence and contact with the outside. As you can see, not getting married at their temple violated that, and thus sent them into a rage. Also, Mormons are really weird about marriage, partly because the guy who founded it just wanted to bang multiple women and justify it. Not ex-friends, but I wouldn't consider him the best anymore, even having known him for over 20 years. He talks just to talk and will only respond to anything else with yeah or aha until he has the chance to talk again. He will hijack conversations entirely, and before I know it, he's talking about himself again. Also, he only ever seems to tell stories of our time in high school, college, and only the same 4 or 5 over and over. At first I thought it was a social thing, but it happens every time without fail regardless of where we are. It's incredibly frustrating to be talking to a group of people and being interrupted. Are you best friends with Bert Kreischer? I realized I'm a people pleaser and started setting boundaries. The rest sorted itself out. Currently going through this same issue. I talked about the essay I experienced as a kid, and she had too tough of a time receiving it because my parents, perpetrators, were more present during our youth than hers. We stopped talking, but I still think of her a lot and tell my kids about how funny and awesome she is. Sometimes people are ready to handle things at different times. This is oddly close to my own experience. She dismissed the I endured the single time I tried to talk to her about it because, oh, something like that happened to me, too. Then, subject change, and I wasn't allowed to bring it up anymore. I recently reached out to her, like, 2 weeks ago, after a decade of no contact, and I was surprised how well we conversed. But ultimately, I stopped replying. It was a comfortable conversation but just emotionally void. She did not apologize for ghosting me or for repeatedly calling me too negative to be around when we were teens, despite knowing that I had been under close observation for MDD since I was 12 years old. I thought reconciling would be more cathartic than it was because losing her was such a defining part of my young adulthood. I feel like I can let her go now, though, which is for the best. She was wonderful in many ways, but she never treated me well. She also still seems to lie compulsively. So, she got mad at my reaction to what she did to me. FK's sake. Bye. Relatable. He got a girlfriend and doesn't need me anymore. His personality has changed a lot and I can't recognize him anymore. Also, he started ghosting me. I miss my best and only friend. Same thing here. Best friends for 12 years. Then he got a GF again after a long time and he doesn't need me anymore. From 45 FaceTime calls a week to no contact from his side. Then I kinda realized that I was just his emotional dumpster where he could throw away all his SH into. I'm happy for him. He deserves it. But darn, does this suck to realize that people can just do that. It's been 8 months and I'm almost thinking about it daily. Hope we both get over it, but I think I will never understand how someone can act like that. I'm the same as you guys. 17 years, but every time she gets a boyfriend she suddenly finds the courage to highlight things that aren't going well or starts acting insincere and ignoring me for weeks on end and SH. When single. Same as I knew her 17 years ago. It's so stupid. You can be with someone and still have time for your so-called best friend. She told me she wanted to be with me, so I thought about it and realized I did like her and I told her. She changed her mind about it and said she was emotionally unavailable. She started dating a guy a few weeks later and at that point I stopped caring. Took her a while to realize I wasn't coming back. It's been a few years since then and she's tried twice to get my attention. But once you disrespect me then I'm gone. I wish her the best, but I'd never mislead someone that close to me. I knew a chick and we'd both expressed interest in each other, and she was ready to really date, and that was fine. I just kinda hung out and we mostly set things to just texting. Interest rekindled. She expressed it. Still wasn't ready to date. Didn't want a relationship. Figured I should move on. It happens. Then she goes public and loud about dating a dude. Like I'm a big boy. You could have just said you weren't ready or didn't want to date me. Just like for though. I'm getting married this coming weekend, so it all panned out quite nicely lol.